Welcome to my next Madden 23 offseason rebuild, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are my favorite team. Now the rules are pretty simple. I have 3 seasons to try to win a Super Bowl, otherwise this franchise rebuild is considered a failure. The first thing I want to take note of here though is we have $122 million in cap space, which is not at all how the Eagles are really operating this offseason, but we do have 17 players ready to negotiate their contracts. And you have guys like Miles Sanders, James Bradbury, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Javon Hargrave. This is a very big offseason for the Eagles here, and we're going to try to bring back a few of these people. CJ Gardner-Johnson has very low interest in coming back here, so I've offered him a player-friendly deal, and then I upped the signing bonus up a little bit. Let's see if he takes this, and he will be re-signing, so thankfully we don't lose him. Because we do have so much cap space, I am going to offer a contract to Miles Sanders. He has a little bit of interest in coming back here, so let's see if Sanders takes this deal, and he will also be returning. Now in real life, the Eagles are probably not going to be bringing back Sanders, but this is the way I'm doing this rebuild. We are going to let James Bradbury go to free agency, defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, TJ Edwards, Isaac Samalu, Marcus Epps, Brett Kern, Boston Scott, Zach Pascal, and Kaiser White. And then a few players back here are also going, but those are the main names that I'm letting hit free agency. So let's take a look at this team before we jump into free agency. Obviously at quarterback, we have superstar depth trait Jalen Hurts, who was an 87 overall. We did re-sign Miles Sanders. We still have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I will be looking for a third receiver to add in free agency or the draft. Up for the O-line, it looks like Jason Kelsey has retired. He is no longer here, so we will need a center. I don't think Cam Jurgens is going to be good enough to start. We are also going to need a right guard because Appet is only a 60 overall. On defense, it looks like we're going to need a new defensive end because it looks like Brandon Graham has officially retired in this universe. He was not in the re-signing period, and I guess he is just gone now, or I completely missed him in the re-signing period, but I don't think that's what happened. I'm also going to need a new outside linebacker. Davion Taylor's only a 67 overall. Nakobe Dean's a 71 overall, normal depth trait. I don't really know how well he's going to progress in a full simulation style rebuild. CJ Gardner-Johnson's still up there at safety. We still have Hassan Reddick. Anthony Harris is only a 71 overall though, so we are probably going to need to upgrade free safety as well. Here are the first 5 contracts I am throwing out here in free agency. I'm starting with middle linebacker TJ Edwards. There were not any better options in free agency. Levante David was a couple points higher, but he's a lot older, so we're going to try to bring back Edwards even though he has almost no interest. Free safety Devin McCourty on a 1-year deal. Kaiser White on a cheap deal, and then I'm also trying to sign right guard Darrell Williams and Jake Brendel. There is not a lot of big name free agents here that fit any of our needs, so let's see if any of them sign. Everyone has signed except TJ Edwards, and they have all signed with us, so now we just have to fight for middle linebacker TJ Edwards. I have added wide receiver Odell Beckham to our list of interested players. It's only a 1-year contract, so it's just pretty much a 1-year prove-it deal, and then we'll probably get rid of him. But for TJ Edwards, I did up his offer a little bit, so let's see if he wants to sign with us here. And they are both gone. We get TJ Edwards, and we also get wide receiver Odell Beckham. So this will be our free agent class, and now we can jump to the draft. Before we actually jump into the draft, here is the final mock draft for this draft class that I downloaded. It looks like the Bears are going to go with right end Brian Breece. It's either Breece or Breece, and I apologize that I don't know how to pronounce it. Bryce Young to the Texans at 2, CJ Stroud to the Cardinals, Will Anderson to the Colts, Jalen Carter to the Seahawks. Let's see who we are expected to take. We're expected to take defensive back Christian Gonzalez, and honestly, I don't think that's a bad pick for us. Let's see if the mock draft was at all accurate. With the number 1 pick in the draft, the Chicago Bears are going to take Brian Breece. Once again, I apologize, I don't really know how to say his name if I'm saying it wrong. With pick 2, the Texans take quarterback Bryce Young. The Cardinals are going to move on from Kyler Murray and take CJ Stroud. The Colts are going to take Will Anderson at 4. The Seahawks at pick 5 will take Jalen Carter. The Lions at pick 6 are going to take defensive back Keely Ringo out of Abilene Christian. I thought he was from like Georgia. I could be completely wrong there, but I thought the last draft class I had said he was from Georgia. Once again, could be completely wrong. At pick 7, the Raiders are going to take Jackson Smith and Jigba, and that also says Abilene Christian. I know he's from Ohio State. Alright, maybe this dude that did this draft class just didn't update all of the colleges, which is kind of lazy, but I mean, it is a ton of players, so I don't really blame him. At pick 8, they take Miles Murphy from Texas Tech, not Abilene Christian. And then at pick 9, the Carolina Panthers are going to select wide receiver Kayshon Boutte out of LSU. See, he updated that guy's college. No, most of these colleges look pretty updated. I don't know what was going on with everyone being from Abilene Christian there. Maybe it's just a weird glitch with Madden, because we all know this is a greatly made game. So we're going to go with the pretty obvious pick here in the first round and take defensive back Christian Gonzalez with the 10th pick in the draft, and he will actually have a normal depth trait. That is a little surprising. So fun fact, the Philadelphia Eagles don't have a pick between rounds 4, 5, or 6, and if you ever watch my rebuilds, I don't pick those rounds, but I still think it's a little insane to not have any picks in those rounds. So what we're going to do is take this trade with the Colts, we will fall back a few spots into the second round, and we'll pick up a 4th round pick in this draft. We also picked up a 6th round pick, but like I just said, I don't really use those picks, I let the computer pick those. But let's see who the Colts are going to take with pick 31. They take quarterback Anthony Richardson. At pick 32, the Chiefs are going to take Andre Carter out of Army. And at the beginning of the first round here, the Steelers take Garrett Patterson, a center out of Notre Dame. The Texans with pick 2 will take whoever the hell that is. I don't want to try to butcher his name. And then with the 3rd pick here in the second round, the Arizona Cardinals take Gervon Dexter Sr. out of Florida. I'm going to take free safety Jalen Catalon out of Arkansas. He does have 4.61 speed, so he's not exactly fast, but he does have C awareness, A man coverage, B play rec. He is a scheme fit. We're going to take him, and he will have a normal depth trait, but he will be backing up Devin McCourty for his first season. At the end of the second round here, I'm going to take center Ricky Stromberg out of Arkansas. A impact blocking, B pass block, B run block. Came in as the strongest center in the class, so we're going to go ahead and take him. He will also have a normal depth trait. Drafting these like made up draft classes, or I guess, you know, handmade draft classes, man-made, whatever you want to say, it seems a bit more difficult sometimes, honestly. Like I was saying, I feel like with these draft classes, I am most of the time just completely and totally guessing. I'm a little bit better at drafting the auto-generated guys, but not much better. But here at the end of the third round, I'm going to take outside linebacker Julian Cunningham. I don't really know a ton about him. I know he has B play recognition, A tackle, and he's one of the fastest outside linebackers in his class. We're going to go ahead and take him. Also a normal depth trait, so we get no hidden depth traits in the picks that I will be making. I have tried a couple different draft classes. One of them, the Bears always take Bryce Young. This one, it doesn't really seem to have a ton of hidden depth traits. With this draft class, we get a 76 overall in Christian Gonzalez, a 73 overall in Jalen Catalon, a 71 overall in Ricky Stromberg, a 70 overall in Julian Cunningham, and then the computer took a 65 overall outside linebacker, a 64 overall right end, a 64 overall left tackle, and a 66 overall wide receiver. Here will be your starting offense for season 1 of this rebuild. I did not add a ton to this offense. We added Odell Beckham to be our wide receiver 3, and then we added a center and a right guard just as pretty much filler until I can draft one that's better or find one in free agency. Now for defense, you will notice that I actually moved Hassan Reddick down to defensive end so he can still rush the passer. I did change the Eagles scheme and playbook to help it with Madden simulation style. So our linebackers are not that good anymore, but now we have a really good defensive line, I think. I also went in and changed defensive back Christian Gonzalez from a normal to a star depth trait just because I felt like it was a little bit bullshit that he was a normal depth trait. I'm now simulating all of season 1 here, and I will tell you guys, I did change the offensive playbook over to Tampa Bay's playbook, because that seems to work best in simulation. The only downside is Jalen Hurts won't really run the ball. He will throw the ball a ton, but he won't have a ton of rushing stats. At the end of season 1, we managed to go 12-5, but so do the Giants, but we win the division and get the 1 seed in the playoffs. We come in as the 12th ranked offense in points per game and the 6th ranked defense. And Jalen Hurts comes in with 4,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, but 13 interceptions. He threw a lot of picks here. On the ground, Miles Sanders ran for 831 yards and 15 touchdowns. Receiving, A.J. Brown, 103 receptions, 1,300 yards, 8 scores. Devontae Smith, 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. Dallas Goedert got 6. Quez Watkins got 4. What happened to Odell Beckham? Alright, he got 9 passes for 121 yards and a touchdown. Not real sure what happened to him. Maybe he wasn't our slot receiver for some reason, whenever the CPU set the depth chart automatically. But over on defense, Kaiser White leads the team in tackles with 100. Tackles for loss goes to Fletcher Cox. Sacks goes to Hassan Reddick, who got 20 this season. Josh Sweat with 8.5. Interceptions goes to Darius Slay. Not a big shock there. Kaiser White got 2. TJ Edwards got 2. Did our rookie get 1? Yes, Christian Gonzalez did get 1 interception on the season. Will Levis leads the league in passing yards. He's the only quarterback to throw for over 5,000 this season. 41 touchdowns, but Joe Burrow leads with 46, and interceptions also goes to Will Levis, this time with 21, Mac Jones with 20. Running the ball, Derrick Henry ran for 1,700 yards, but for touchdowns, that goes to Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley, who both got 19. And receiving, yeah, it's going to be Cooper Kupp, 124 receptions, 2,100 yards, and 19 touchdowns. He wins all 3 categories, just like every other Season 1 simulation. Here is how the playoffs look after the first round, and it looks like we get to take on the rookie Will Levis and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We do manage to get by Tampa Bay 31-23 and are headed to the NFC Championship game, where we would lose in Philadelphia to the Carolina Panthers 31-21, who are led by quarterback Jacoby Brissett. In an absolute shootout in the all-cat Super Bowl, the Carolina Panthers win 49-42, led by Jacoby Brissett, who wins Super Bowl MVP. NFL MVP goes to Joe Burrow, Coach of the Year goes to Zach Taylor, Offensive Player of the Year goes to Cooper Kupp, Defensive Player of the Year goes to Max Crosby, Rookie of the Year goes to Anthony Richardson, quarterback of the Colts, and Defensive Rookie of the Year goes to Jalen Carter in Seattle. This offseason, we have $76 million in cap space to begin with, and we have 15 players ready to negotiate their contracts. And quarterback Jalen Hurts' contract is up. He does have some re-sign interest, so let's see if we can get him back. We are going to offer this player-friendly contract because he doesn't have full re-sign interest, but let's see if we can get him back here. And he will be signing a 7-year contract extension, so we get to keep our franchise quarterback. Now the problem comes in if we only have $27 million left in cap space after doing that, and there are still a few players here that I would like to at least think about bringing back, but I really can't with only $27 million, and we still need some help in free agency, so I guess everyone else is going to get to test the market here. Back here looking at the offense before I jump into free agency, obviously we still have Jalen Hurts, who is now in 92 overall. I guess he's an 89 overall technically. He does have +3 to his overall currently, but we will still be looking for a wide receiver 3 this season. We probably need a new center. Schomburg gets a 73 overall scheme fit, so maybe he'll be fine. Right guard, though, is definitely an issue of concern. On defense, we do lose defensive tackle Fletcher Cox, but it looks like Sweat and Reddick are now both superstar X Factors, which is a huge thing for us, and we are definitely going to need at least one new corner now that Darius Slay is gone. Due to the lack of cap space, we're not going to be able to add a ton of help in free agency, but I am going to try to add defensive back Chidobe Awuzie. He actually has some interest in coming back here. Darius Slay had almost none. And I'm also offering a contract to Quez Watkins just in case I can't find a better receiver in the draft. Let's see if either one of these guys want to sign, and they have both signed with us, so we will just go right to the draft now. I lied. Before we get to the draft, I want to see where some of these guys sign. Like Tristan Wirfs is headed to Tennessee, Lamar Jackson is headed to Carolina, who just won the Super Bowl with Jacoby Brissett. Chris Lindstrom is headed to Seattle, and Mike Evans is also headed to Seattle. Justin Herbert is now a Giant. They actually had Baker Mayfield last season, but now they've moved on to Justin Herbert. This draft class will be completely auto-generated, obviously, so hopefully I can draft a little bit better. We obviously pick here at pick 30, but then we also have the Saints second round pick there at pick 3. With our first round pick, I'm going to take wide receiver Quentin Woodley out of Florida State. He is 6'5", 233 pounds. He does not have great speed. He ran a 4.52 and a 4.47, but he does have B catching traffic, A catching, and B release, so we're going to go ahead and take him, and Quentin Woodley will have a normal dev trait because I suck at drafting. Here's hoping this pick goes a little bit better. Defensive tackle Leon Landry out of LSU, A power move, B finesse move. He was the 5th strongest defensive tackle at the Combine, but the 10th at the Pro Days. We'll take defensive tackle Leon Landry, who also has a normal dev trait. Why am I awful at drafting today? At the end of the second round with pick 30, I'm going to take center Sam Dickens. We may be moving him to right guard though, but hopefully he will at least be hitting dev trait, and finally we get one. At the end of the third round, I'm going to take another defensive tackle, this time Eric Hanna out of Clemson. He is the 6th strongest defensive tackle at the Combine, the 5th at the Pro Days, A finesse move, B tackle, and Eric Hanna will also have a normal dev trait. I don't think I'm generally this bad at drafting, but of course whenever I'm using my favorite team, I'm going to be. We get a 72 overall wide receiver in the first round, a 73 overall defensive tackle, a 72 overall center. I am actually going to move him over to right guard, a 71 overall defensive tackle, a 69 overall tight end, a 68 overall right guard, a 68 overall outside linebacker, and a 66 overall right end. Here's your starting offense for Season 2 of this rebuild. Not much has changed here. We still have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Quez Watkins at receiver, Miles Sanders at running back, Jalen Hurts at quarterback. The big thing here is, though, that Sam Dickens will be our starting right guard. It also looks like we will start the season without Jordan Mailata. He will miss the next 6 weeks. Are you kidding me? And on defense, we have an injury as well. Looks like TJ Edwards is injured, and he will miss the first 2 weeks of the season. So Nakobe Dean will get to be the starting middle linebacker as we start this year. Honestly, simulating Season 2, I think it's going to come down to Jalen Hurts. He now has a huge contract. Can he lead this offense back to the playoffs and make up for the fact that we lost a couple key defensive pieces? We do manage to go 12-5 for the second straight season. This time it doesn't look like we get the 1 seed in the playoffs though. We finish as the 10th offense in points per game and the 12th defense in points per game. Jalen Hurts throws for 5,143 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. Miles Sanders for 1,100 yards and 16 touchdowns on the ground. Receiving Devontae Smith, 86 catches, 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. Quez Watkins caught 7. Dallas Goedert caught 9. Don't know what happened to A.J. Brown, only 56 catches for 800 yards and only 2 touchdowns. But Quentin Woodley did get 6 touchdowns on the year. TJ Edwards leads the team in tackles with 99. In sacks, that goes to Hassan Reddick with 22.5. Josh Sweat got 10.5. Milton Williams got 7.5. And interceptions, Chidobe Awuzie got 4. And CJ Gardner-Johnson got 4. Okay, Bryce Young comes in with 5,700 yards, 48 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Both of those lead the league. What about interceptions? That goes to Jared Goff, Kenny Pickett, and Will Levis, who all threw 18. Running the ball, Jonathan Taylor for 1,600 yards leads the league. In touchdowns, it goes to Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon, who both got 19. Receiving, Cooper Kupp, 149 receptions, 2,000 yards, and 22 touchdowns. That is absolutely absurd. At 12-5, we got in as the 3 seed here, so we take on the Detroit Lions and beat them 21-18 in the wildcard round. We then head to Minnesota and take on the 2nd seed Vikings and defeat them 35-24 as they were led by quarterback Geno Smith. In a rematch of last year's NFC Championship, we go to Carolina this time and defeat them 31-28. They came to Philadelphia in the last season and beat us, but now led by quarterback Lamar Jackson, they do not get back to the Super Bowl. So of course we get to take on the 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs because even this game is never going to let me forget that we just lost the Super Bowl in real life. But we win the rematch here, 34-31, led by Super Bowl MVP quarterback Jalen Hurts. NFL MVP goes to Bryce Young, Coach of the Year goes to Matt Rule, Offensive Player of the Year goes to Cooper Kupp. We get Defensive Player of the Year with Hassan Reddick. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to a quarterback for the Titans, and Defensive Rookie of the Year goes to a defensive tackle for the 49ers. Yes, we just won the Super Bowl, but I will still do Season 3 here to see if we can go back-to-back. We started this offseason with $44 million in cap space, with 18 players ready to negotiate their contract. And it is going to be rough to get back to the Super Bowl because there are some big names here. Defensive end Hassan Reddick, defensive end Josh Sweat, who have both been key points to our defense. Defensive back Chidobe Awuzie, left guard Landon Dickerson, kicker Jake Elliott, and defensive back Avonte Maddox, just to name a few here. First thing we're going to do is try to sign Hassan Reddick, who is a 93 overall superstar X-Factor, and he will be coming back. The next contract is defensive end Josh Sweat. This will pretty much take up what cap space we have remaining, and he is happy to sign and continue to play for the great organization, but I may have to clear some cap space before we get into free agency. The offense gets to stay mostly together. We're going to need a backup quarterback, probably going to need a backup running back as well, but we can find that kind of stuff in the draft. Receiver seems to be fine. We are going to need to look at left guard since we did lose Landon Dickerson, and I think we may be able to find one in the draft, but I'm definitely going to have to clear some cap space. But first, we're going to take a look at the defense. Obviously, I got to retain Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. Defensive back may be a problem because we have Christian Gonzalez, and then past that, no one above a 70 overall. We may have to draft really well at corner or get another safety somehow. We may not get to participate much in free agency this season because you have guys like Lane Johnson who would clear $18 million, but he's still a 91 overall right tackle. Jordan Mailata's an 88 overall left tackle. Devontae Smith's a 91. Dallas Goedert's a 90. All of these guys are pretty important to the team here. We can't afford to get rid of a lot of them. And stuff like that is why I wish Madden could introduce renegotiating contracts. I would love to renegotiate Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata there to try to clear up a little bit more cap space, but you can't do that. So obviously I did not cut any of those guys. I did not participate in free agency. So let's just see where these top guys went and then we'll get into the draft. Joe Mixon is headed to Baltimore. DeAndre Hopkins is headed to the Giants. That's not great for us. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is headed to Jacksonville. With our first pick in the draft, I'm going to take defensive back Ben Gay out of Nevada. He is not very fast, but he does have B-man coverage. So we're going to take him and he will come in with a hidden dev trade. I almost said normal dev trade out of habit. At the end of this second round, I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the last draft. I'm going to take a center and move him over to guard. There are not any good guards available in this class. We're going to take center Brian Perkins out of South Carolina, who will be a hidden dev trade. At the end of the third round, I cannot find anyone to actually draft, so we're going to take a backup running back like I talked about, where we only have like 1 or 2 on the roster. So we're going to take running back CJ Levy out of Louisville, and he will come in with a normal dev trade. Defensive back Ben Gay is a 75 overall corner. It looks like the guy that we drafted at center, I just moved him to left guard. He goes from a 73 to a 75 overall. CJ Levy, not the best player I could have taken, a 69 overall running back. The computer took a 67 overall outside linebacker, a 65 overall strong safety, a 58 overall quarterback, and a 66 overall safety. Here is your final offense for the final season of this rebuild. Obviously, this rebuild cannot be a failure. We already won a Super Bowl, but now we're going for back-to-back Super Bowls. The offense hasn't changed a ton the entire time here. We did have Odell Beckham for a season who really didn't do anything, and then I've had to draft some linemen to replace some players who left or retired, but aside from that, we still have Hurts, Sanders, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith. Now, defense is going to be a very, 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 very big question this season. We still have Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick and Jordan Davis. The other defensive tackle's only a 74 overall. The linebackers are not terrific. TJ Edwards by far the best one at 86 overall. We still have CJ Gardner-Johnson, and we are starting a very, very young defensive back group with Christian Gonzalez and Ben Gay. And then we have Jalen Catalon back here at free safety. Before we simulate this final season, you can see that we are a 91 overall offense, an 83 overall defense, but an 87 overall team. So the defense is clearly the big question of this team. Let's see if we can get back to another Super Bowl. This is the first rebuild on Madden 23 where I actually had to pay my quarterback and then go a couple years in. Generally, I go with a young guy or a dude that I'm trying to rebuild his career, like I did a Carson Wentz thing a few videos ago. But this is the first time that I've had to give my quarterback a ton of money and then build around him, so it's an interesting challenge. In the final season here, we end up going 13-4. We once again earn the 1 seed. We are the 2nd offense in points per game and the 9th defense in points per game. Jalen Hurts had by far the best year so far he's had of his career. 5,400 yards, 45 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Miles Sanders ran for 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns. Receiving AJ Brown 116 catches, almost 1,700 yards and 11 scores. Devontae Smith 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. Wes Watkins got 9, Dallas Goedert got 7, Quentin Woodley got 2, Miles Sanders got 3. What about the defense? How did they do over here? TJ Edwards leading the defense with 133 tackles. Sacks goes to Hassan Reddick with 24 and Josh Sweat with 11.5. Interceptions, Christian Gonzalez led the team with 4, Nakobe Dean got 3, CJ Gardner-Johnson got 2, Marco Smith, whoever the hell that is, got 1, and Ben Gay, our new rookie corner, got 1. Despite Jalen Hurts throwing for almost 5,500 yards, he does not lead the league in passing yards. That goes to Josh Allen, who almost threw 5,800. Touchdowns goes to Trey Lance, who threw 46 of them in Vegas, so only 7 interceptions. Leading the league in picks goes to Bobby Payton and Dak Prescott. Running the ball, Jonathan Taylor goes for 1,700 yards and 21 touchdowns. Both of those lead the league. And receiving goes to AJ Brown with 116 catches. Yards goes to Stephon Diggs for 1,700. And touchdowns goes to Cooper Kupp, who caught 20 this season. Here's how the playoffs played out after the first round. So we will not meet Carolina for a 3rd time in the NFC Championship as they lost to Washington. So now the 7 seed Commanders get to come to Philadelphia. We would take down Washington 24-17, and they are now led by Tua apparently. But sadly, in the NFC Championship game, we would lose to the Green Bay Packers 20-14. They are led by auto-generated quarterback Damian Brown from Washington. But then the Packers would run into Kansas City in the Super Bowl and lose 38-16. NFL MVP goes to Bryce Young. Coach of the Year goes to Zach Taylor. Offensive Player of the Year goes to Joe Mixon. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Myles Garrett. A quarterback for the Rams wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Rookie of the Year goes to a defensive end for the Raiders. So we managed to win 1 Super Bowl in 3 years. We go to 3 straight conference championships, so this is still a pretty good team. Like I said earlier, it's an interesting challenge to try to build around a superstar quarterback's contract. Makes it a lot more difficult to sign free agents and stuff like that, obviously. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys next time.